So we will have an introduction and a bit of background to the new fee regulation that Jean-Michel Mastiot, our head of finance, will present. And then we will move on to the practical main changes applicable to human procedures presented by Claudia Galeazzo, our financial technical advisor, to then move on to an overview of financial aspects related to the new fee regulation presented by our accounting officer, Paola Samassa. And then I will be back to close and then moderate our Q&A session. So without further ado, I will just pass on to Jean-Michel Mastiot.
Yes, thank you, Valeria, and good morning, everyone. The new fee regulation topic is an important topic, as the fees cover 95% of EMA budget, which represent roughly half a billion euro per year. A part, of course, of the budget is dedicated also to remunerate the contribution of the national competent authority. It's the new fees regulation that will be introduced in 2025 is a result of a long journey. Initially, it was foreseen to be reviewed in 2010, but actually it started only in 2015. And just for some element of background, the fees were originally introduced in 1995. And an additional regulation for the pharmacovigilance fees was added in 2014. However, then the fees have never undergone a significant revision since they were introduced. And as I mentioned, then from 2015, the European Commission started to initiate a project for the revision of the regulation, of the two existing regulations. In 2015, the European Commission launched, with the support of a consultant, a large exercise to gather and analyze input from EMA and the national competent authority. This exercise was called data gathering, and the purpose was actually to collect and assess time, workload, cost from both the EMA and the national competent authority. It took several years, and based on the result of this exercise, the European Commission drafted a proposal for a revised fee regulation and launched an impact assessment study with external consultation. And following the impact assessment, the European Commission finalized a legal proposal. There was also a possibility for everybody to comment on the proposal. And finally, it was adopted by the European Parliament and the Council in 2022. And it was presented and started to discuss in 2022 and adopted by the Council and the European Parliament in 2024 for an introduction in 2025. So the aim of this new regulation is to have a simplified fee system, but also a fee system that is cost-based and proportionate to the work that is carried out by EMA and the national competent authority. And one of the aims is also to properly remunerate the contribution of the member state that is crucial in the assessment work. But the new fee regulation intend also to take into account some specific situation, and like, for instance, the innovation. So it takes also into account specific cases for small and medium industry, the one who are not engaged in economic activities or pandemic situation or immunological via incentive that will be proposed in the new fee regulation. So this is also a very important point. As I mentioned, all the work has been done on the costs, on the gathering the data, and the aim is to have a simplified and cost-based system in place. So next slide, please. So in a nutshell, the main changes that Claudia will develop later on, it's basically to simplify the calculation of the fees, to simplify the system. For instance, you have removal of certain fees, like a type 1 variation, that are now introduced in the annual fee. So there are some simplification element. There is a change in the fee structure that is now calculated per procedure and also based, as I mentioned, on the actual cost incurred within the network. There will be some modification of administrative fees, and in particular for withdrawal and for changes to the intended submission date. There will be also some payment method for some procedures that will be introduced, like a prepayment mechanism that will be presented in depth. Some fees disappeared and are included for some of them in the annual fees. And we introduce also new fees for pre-submission, referrals, re-examination of applications or opinion. So all this will now be presented by Claudia in details.
Thank you very much, and good morning to the audience. So this second part of the presentation will be focusing on major changes that you will have to incorporate in your day-to-day submission activity for procedures related to human medicinal products. So we are going to the major changes. We are not going to the full 4 annexes of the new fee regulation point by point, because it will take probably one day, not 20 minutes. But of course, you will have also the possibility to ask for the question at the end if you would like to know more about the different procedures. So let's start with scientific advice. Currently, scientific advice has 6 basic fee levels: 3 for initial request of scientific advice and 3 for a follow-up of an advice previously given. And there is a different fee charge between if the scope of the advice is quality, safety, and or clinical development, qualification, and bioequivalence studies. So also currently the SME status, if the applicant is an SME, needs to be valid by the time the scientific advice procedure starts. This will change from 1st of January. There will be a simplification on the fee level. There will be only 3 fee levels, no distinction between initial and follow-up. And the scope of the advice nevertheless remain. One important aspect for scientific advice is the revision of the payment methods and terms. So scientific advice is one of the 3 procedures with the new fee regulation that will be subject to prepayment. So in this case, for scientific advice, you submit your request for advice. It will be validated, and then at the end of validation, an invoice will be sent out, and you will need to pay the fee before the procedure can start. But this will be explained more in detail later by my colleague Paola. One other important aspect that is valid throughout the fee regulation, not only for scientific advice, is that the DSME status needs to be valid at the time of submission now, and not anymore at the time of what we call a fee due date, that is the date of starting for one concerned scientific advice. So the SME status needs to, an SME applicant, in order to benefit from the reduction, the SME status needs to be valid at the time of submission. For initial marketing authorization, here we have granularized more the fee levels. Currently, we have 3 basic fee levels with separate fees for additional strength or form of presentation. The calculation is quite of the fee is quite challenging in order to compute all this composition of the marketing authorization application. In the future, the fee that you have more granularized depending on the legal basis, but there will be no separate fee for additional strength or form and for presentation. So the fee that you get, if you know your legal basis, I'm sure you know, they are at face value published in the annex, and you will know from the start which fee will be applicable. Again, the SME status, in order to benefit from the incentive, in this case, the deferral of the fee, will be needs to be valid at the time of submission. In case of a re-examination of the opinion, there is a new fee that is equal to the 30% of the initial fee of the legal basis applied initially. So this is an important aspect. It's a new fee introduced. For extension of market authorization, we still have 3 levels of basic fee separated with the additional strength form of presentation. We have removed that differentiation, so now we have 3 fee levels, and there is no additional fee for strength form of presentation. Certification of medicinal product for plasma master file and vaccine antigen master files. We have 3, currently we have 3 fee levels for standard, urgent, and withdrawal request. In the future, we will have 4 different fee or charge level. So if we can move to the next, re-examination of procedure, as I mentioned before, in new application, currently is not charged, and from 1st of January, there will be an equivalent to 30% of the fee applicable to the initial opinion, and most importantly, no SME incentive for the re-examination of procedure. For variations, there is a simplification here as well as a reduction of the fee. Currently, we have 5 fee levels, 3 different level of fee for major variation of type 2, and 2 different fees for minor variation of type 1, plus 4 different charges for work sharing. In the future, we will have only 2 fee levels applicable to major variation of type 1. The distinction of the fee level is between a type 2 extension of indication and the remaining other type 2. There will be no more fee for minor variation, type 1. The cost has been computed and included as a maintenance fee in the annual fee. And there will be 1 charge only for work sharing of major variation of type 2. This will be applicable only for type 2, the work sharing charge. And we have eliminated the capping for grouping of type 2s. If I can have the next. Now, in the area of referrals, currently referrals are charged only if they are related to pharmacovigilance scope. And there are 5 fee levels. All the other referrals are charged only if they are initiated by an applicant or market representative, and we rarely see them. From the 1st of January, all referrals will be subject to a fee. 3 of these referrals or scientific opinion according to Article 5.3 the fee will be waived, but for the remaining other referrals, there are 9 different fee levels that include the 5 fee levels of the pharmacovigilance fee referrals that we have currently, plus also non-pharmacovigilance referrals will be subject to a fee. The referral subject to a fee, the fee will be calculated as it is now with the pharmacovigilance fee referral via the chargeable units. So that methodology is also applicable to non-pharmacovigilance referral. Parallel distribution, there is a simplification and a change in the fee structure. Currently, we have a fee different if it's initial notification, annual update notification, or an overall change. The para distribution in the future will be subject to payment method as prepayment, and the change there will be a change in fee structure. The pharmaceutical form is removed from the grouping logic. And the annual updates will be submitted per product and member state of destination. So we bear in mind that the prepayment for para distribution is needs to be received in advance of the submission. So this is a difference from the scientific advice. For pre-submission activities, we have a new fee here. Currently, they are not being charged, but this has been computed as one area where there is quite an investment of costs before the submission can be received. So there will be a pre-submission fee that will be due and charged as submission of letter of intent. Now, with the submission of letter of intent, you communicate a date of the intended submission, but this, if this is changed by more than 60 days, you will be subject to an additional charge. And this will be repeated until, if you keep moving the targeted submission date along the way of more than 60 days from the initial date received in the letter of intent. For this provision, there are no SME incentives. For land extensions, the level of fee changes from 2 level of fees to 3 level of fees, and there will be a separate fee for additional strength and pharmaceutical form only. In the area of consultation of medical devices, this was a little bit an hybrid of fees provided in the current implementing rules that we try to make workable in a way in view of the medical device regulation that was implemented just before just before the new fee regulation. So with the new fee regulation, we had an opportunity to streamline both the current practice and remove many fee levels and for follow-up, etc. So we have simplified this. So for ancillary medicinal substance, we have 2 fee levels for initial request and 1 fee level for a change. The medical device with the absorbed substance companion diagnostic are included with the same provisions as the current practices. Inspection, this is also revised. The fee, of course, the amount are being changed, but there is a major change in the process, in the communication of the inspections. There is no form of communication of the start of the inspection. With the new fee regulation, we took the opportunity also to revise the process, as the date of start is a key milestone in order to initiate the financial workflow or the procedural workflow of the inspection leading to a financial workflow. So there will be a new process to communicate to the market authorization holder the first date of the inspection. The fee is also changing. There are different fees depending on whether the inspection is outside or within the EU territory. There will be also a streamlined and better transparent provision for fee applicable for cancellation. There are different amounts if the cancellation happens before 30 days or after 30 days from the date of start. If it happens before 30 days, there is a minimal charge. If it happens before 30 days, there is a full fee charge. If it happens after 30 days from the date of start, there will be a minimal charge. So now we have an overview also of the other procedure, not all of them, but some other that are impacted by a minor change. PSUR and PAS do not change from the pharmacovigilance, the process at least, the way, the modality of which we charge. For PSUR and PAS, only the fee amounts are changed. For the annual fee, there are currently 3 fee levels, depending on the legal basis, and several reductions in place. From the 1st of January, there are still 3 different fee levels depending on the legal basis, but the main changes is on the fee amount, and the reduction currently applicable will remain. The same for the annual pharmacovigilance fee. The modality of charging is not changed. Chargeable unit are still in place. The same modality that you are familiar with by now after 10 years will still be in place. What is changing are the fee amounts for a chargeable unit. Another aspect that is changing is not really impacting the fee as such for industry, is that we have introduced a fee for pediatric application and orphan designation, pediatric application for initial PIP, modification of PAP, and compliance check and product-specific waiver. There is a fee, but it's automatically waived, so you will not receive an invoice for this procedure. But we are computing this fee as a waive in order to be able to assign the related remuneration to the national competent authorities. The same process is for orphan. The fee is waived. You will not receive an invoice, but we will be able to, with this waived fee, to apply a remuneration for the assessment of application for orphan designation and maintenance for orphan designation. So this is the takeaway of the procedural fees changes. There is also a new fee. It is not a fee, actually, it's a charge. From 1st of January, if you withdraw your product during validation of a submission, more than 24 hours after its submission and before the start of the procedure, a charge will be applied of €4,400. This is the same amount also if the application is rejected upon end of submission. And the main part of the procedure that have a validation are the one below. So in the case of pediatric orphan designation, even if the fee is waived, if there is a withdrawal or a rejection upon validation, this fee will be charged. So it's not waived. This is an important aspect to take in mind. Some fee are waived, but the charge is still applicable. So next, I leave, my presentation is finished, and I leave the floor to my colleague Paola Samassa in order to guide you through the financial aspect of the new regulation and their impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm Paola Samassa. I'm the agency accounting officer. Over the next 15 minutes or so, I will give an overview of the key financial aspects of the new fee regulation, and particularly of the agency's invoicing process, which is structured around 3 fundamental steps: receiving an invoice, paying an invoice, and raising a query. We said that the introduction of the prepayment process for scientific advice, parallel distribution, and certificates means that the delivery of such services will be dependent on the fee having been paid first in its entirety. So the focus will be specifically on this aspect. We want, of course, to ensure smooth processing of the agency's invoices, and more importantly, we want to make sure that the payment process is as easy as possible also for the industry. I will now describe the elements relevant to receiving an invoice from the agency and why they are important. The due dates for fees and charges are established in the working arrangements document by the agency to the marketing authorization holder. Another aspect that is important is the customer account number, which is a unique reference number for financial matters selected by the applicant at the point of submissions. It starts with 6 generally, except for parallel distributors where it starts with number 5. It is also important to know that the agency issues to the marketing authorization issues invoices to the marketing authorization legal address, and that it is possible to specify a billing address in addition to the legal address where the invoices will be sent if you wish so. Another aspect is about the where the invoices are dispatched. So they are issued to the legal address, but they are sent by email to the designated financial contact points, and they can also be downloaded from the invoicing portal. The bullet point that we see on screen now about invoice numbering, this is another element where we have introduced a new feature. So the invoice numbering usually starts with 7, where if the invoice relates to marketing authorization fees, it starts with 8 if it relates to pharmacovigilance fees, and it will start with 9 for those fees that are subject to prepayment. So this is a new feature that we have introduced with the new fee regulation, so to be able to distinguish those invoices from the others. The EMA can also quote a reference number, so-called internal purchase order numbers, or similar references that are provided by the marketing authorization holder. As these references, we understand, facilitate the processing of the invoice from your financial departments. Last but not least, we also make available an invoicing portal. This is a self-service tool allowing our customers to have instant access to their accounts with EMA. It means that they can view and download invoices, raise query on invoices, view payments that were made through this portal. I will now move describing the elements relevant to paying an invoice to the agency and why these are important. So first of all, the deadline for payment. This is also known as invoice due date. It can be found on the invoice, and it is 30 days from the invoice date. I also wanted to say that the agency informs the marketing authorization holder that the deadline for payment is approaching by sending 10 days before such deadlines a payment reminder by email to the designated financial contact point. In the case of scientific advice, the agency recommends paying the invoice as soon as possible upon its receipt so that the request can be comfortably included in the next available start of procedures. And we will see an illustrated example of the timeline in a moment. Regarding bank transfer, for services subject to prepayment, it will be important that your financial teams process one remittance, basically one single payment for each individual invoice. It will be very important that the EMA full invoicing number, that in the case of the prepayment, it will start with 9, is fully quoted in the bank transfer reference field. And also, you will have to ensure that the full amount in euro is transferred with no deduction of bank charges or similar other withdrawals that we experience from time to time. Why I'm saying that? Because this will ensure an automatic allocation of the payment to the corresponding invoice and therefore to the corresponding submission, which will then be unblocked for processing. I also would like to outline the importance of a remittance advice. So we would like to receive that from you. It's already happening, of course, which is a confirmation that the payment has been executed and for what. So why do we need that? Because that will help us allocating the payment received to the corresponding invoice in the case the automatic allocation of the receipts fails, for example, because of non-matching references number. Regarding the payment processing time, it can take up to 48 hours for the bank to clear the payment and to make the bank statement available to EMA. So it will be important to take this into account when processing a payment, especially for scientific advice requests, which are subject to prepayment and therefore to a slightly tighter deadline. For services for services subject to prepayment, this is also a new feature that we also have introduced in IRIS. When the payment is allocated successfully, there will be a financial information screen in IRIS showing in real time the confirmation that the payment has been received. For certificates, we will send a notification to the requester. Regarding consequences of late payment or non-payment, for those services are subject to prepayment if the payment is not received by the invoice due date. Both application and invoice will be cancelled, and as Claudia mentioned earlier on, an administrative charge will be applicable for scientific advice. For all those other services that are not subject to prepayments, the usual late payment interest applies. This is in line with the EMA and EU financial regulations. Yeah. And last, if it happens that you have a credit balance with EMA, that is possible, meaning that we owe you money, for example, because of a duplicate payment or the payment having been received after the cancellation of the invoice, as I said earlier, such credit will be automatically returned to the payer after deduction of any applicable service charge. Talking about query now, if you need to raise a query on an invoice, this should be done via the EMA invoicing portal. This will ensure the creation of a formal dispute case and efficient internal escalation. But we also, in addition, encourage you raising questions prior to the issuing of the invoice. Next bullet point, please. And which is basically, in general, the procedure, our procedure for handling queries. Yeah. Often, queries or invoices rejection, even worse, yes, so are due to changes of billing addresses, issues with validity of purchase orders from your end. So we believe these administrative issues can be addressed at the outset with proactive communication both ways. This is already in place, so I just encourage even more to adopt this approach. So please do not hesitate to contact us and we will be more than happy to assist you. So the next slide, thank you, Valeria. We can see an example of an invoice which simply summarizes visually what I have outlined verbally in the previous slide. On the top left corner, we do have your legal address and a billing address if requested. We then have the account number, which in this example starts with 6. So this would be a non-parallel distribution customers. We also have the customer reference number or the invoice number, apologies, starting with 9. In this case would be an invoice subject to prepayment, scientific advice or certificates. And then we do have in the middle, in the body of the invoice, your reference number. This is your internal purchase order number or other reference that you communicate to us and that we quote on the invoice, because with that, your financial team then will be able to process the invoice. So a very important element. Last but not least is the payable by date, invoice due date, which is the one highlighted in bold, and it is 30 days from the invoice date. Yeah. Okay, so thank you. The next slide is about, it illustrates basically the human medicines scientific advice key dates. We do have, if we take maybe a real example of the timetable, so the submission of the 2nd of December, for example, that would be day 0. So the moment it is submitted, then it will undergo a validation. We expect a validation around the 6th of January in this case, which is pretty much 10 to 7 days before the start of the procedure. So the start of the procedure 1 will be the payment cutoff date in order for the application to be included in this start of the procedure. Otherwise, if the payment is not received by this first cutoff date, then it will be included in the start of procedure number 2, and the last payment cutoff date for procedure 2 will coincide with the invoice due date. We will map these processes against the real timetable, and we will also provide that via the Q&A or via the guidance. Maybe we can move to the last slide, yes, where I have some key takeaways, if you want, so to ensure straight-through processing of the EMA invoices. First of all, it is important to familiarize with the working arrangements. As we said, that document sets the due dates, what to expect when, the fee levels, and so on. The other element important is to keep billing addresses up to date, PO references valid, to have dedicated contact points for financial matters, and very important, the internal communication between your regulatory and financial contact points within your organization. And also, we encourage the financial contact points to register with the EMA invoicing portal. That's essentially for which you will find the link in our How to Pay page. And all this information will be provided after the webinar. Paying an invoice, very important, as we said, compliance with the invoice due date. We want to avoid cancellations for prepayment services or late payment interest charges. Bank transfer requirements, this applicable across all procedures, but specifically for the prepayments, as we said, EMA invoice number quoted in the reference field, the full amount, no bank charges deducted, one single payment for invoice, and please send us a remittance advice so that we can troubleshoot very, very quickly if there is any issue. I also wanted to introduce a new feature that we will implement in 2025. We are actually evaluating the request and the interest of the industry. So we received some questions in this respect. So we are considering the implementation of a SEPA direct debit system. This would facilitate the payment because if you give us a mandate, it will be us collecting the payment from your bank account rather than you processing it. So on this, we will provide more information as the evaluation and progresses. With regards to raising a query, this is a bit repeating what I already said. Preventing checks prior to receiving an invoice are always better than doing them after the invoice has been received. And also queries on an invoice to be raised as soon as possible via the EMA invoicing portal. So last box, this presentation was intended to give you a preview of the guidance that will be made available with these slides after the webinar, as well as on our How to Pay page in November, together with all the other regulatory guidances. In the meantime, yes, as Valeria will complement later on, don't hesitate to ask any question before we go live. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paola. Awesome, thank you. Okay, so we're going towards the closing of this webinar. I just want to give you a couple of more information. So we would like to kindly request MAHs or any industry stakeholder that request certificates or that will request certificates from 1st of January 2025 to register with EMA account management so that you will have an EMA account. This is because we are looking into a web form as opposed to the currently used PDF form that you would send to the certificates team by email, so that this can be filled in online and then just submitted via this web form. So in order to do that, you will need to firstly log in with your EMA account. So you will find the instructions and links to a webinar where you can find more information as to how to register on these slides that, as we said at the beginning, will be published on the events webpage. So that's one thing. Second thing is, as you know, obviously we have been updating all of the available guidance that is published on the EMA's website. In November 2024, so just next month, we will be able to start publishing all of the updated guidance. So we started with the working arrangements in July. And as you can see here, there's a quick view on the currently available documentation and the documentation that will be applicable and available from 1st of January 2025. So that's the text of the new fee regulation, which is already published on the EMA's webpage dedicated to fees, together with the working arrangements. The SME regulations, as we said during the presentation, will still be available and applicable. And also we'll publish a set of questions and answers on fees and procedures on the EMA's website, so the same fee webpage. So that will come next month. In terms of next engagement opportunities, we will have our usual quarterly system demo on the 12th of December. So you can dial in. It will be broadcast as usual via the EMA's YouTube channel. But if you have any questions in the meantime, you can always reach out to our mailbox, which is nfr@ema.europa.eu. And I think at this point we can switch to our Slido so that we can take a look at the questions that you may have sent through so far. So if we want to start with the first question. So we have, is the submission contact for a procedure in IRIS the person who will receive notification email from IRIS for a procedure, and the EMA contact will no longer receive notification emails? So this is a question that we answered in writing. Please reach out to the IRIS colleagues, as this is not an NFR related question, so we can't help, unfortunately. So the email address is in Slido, so you should all be able to see it and then contact the team. So next question, is it correct that type 1B variations are included in the annual fee? I think Claudia can probably confirm.
Yes, it is correct. Type 1B variation are not anymore charged by their submission. They are a cluster within the maintenance annual fee.
Perfect. Then let's see which certifications are in scope for prepayments. So that's for Paola.
Yes, actually, let me turn the question. So subject to prepayments are certificates for requests for certificates for medicinal products, scientific advice request, and parallel distribution notification. So everything else remains as usual. Yeah. So invoice, 30 days payment, but service that continues to be delivered without the dependency on the fee having been received first.
Awesome, thank you. So this covers both questions.
Exactly. And probably the third
and this one
so,
too.
Yes, yeah. The change is, okay, so the change is that the payment will be requested before processing the certificates request. Method of payments remains bank transfer for the moment, but as I have anticipated, we are looking into setting up a direct debit system. And as I said, with a mandate that would make the payment collectible by the agency instead of the applicant making the bank transfer.
Sounds good.
Can also cover the next one. Yes, this one, the invoicing portal has been around, I would say, since a number of years. Just for information, 10 years precisely when we introduced the pharmacovigilance piece. You will find a link for registration in our How to Pay page. And we will provide this link now together with the answer. So if you type EMA How to Pay, it will pop up in Google, quite on the top, if not really on the top. And I can also take the second one. So can you see all invoices per month? Yes. So basically the sign up is that a user will be associated to an account, a customer account number of the marketing authorization holder. A user can be associated to many customer account numbers, so to many marketing authorization holder of the same group, typically. And you will be able to see all the transactions. It's basically mirroring our internal receivable account. It's basically exposed through the portal via subscription and for the user that are subscribed. Yeah. Yes,
Good,
so
thank
then
you.
probably I'll stop here. And
Yes, so I'll go to Claudia, I believe, for this one.
For me again, what does fee is introduced but waive mean for offer designation? Will this waiver be removed in the future? So there is a fee. If you look in Annex 1, there is a fee, but this fee is waived. It means that there is a cost for the agency that we need to budget. We need to budget, but this cost is completely retained by the agency and not charged to industry. In this case, is waived for offer designation. Will this waiver be removed in the future? The answer is not in the near future. It may be removed if there is a necessity. It would be unlikely. One aspect of the new fee regulation is that this document is a document that can be changed if some of the costs, either for the agency or for the national competent authorities, are being, are demonstrated to be not fit for purpose anymore. So we will, the agency has the opportunity, in conjunction with the management board, to send to the commission a proposal to change the fee, the cost, the remuneration, and the payment to national competent authority in a controlled way by a special report. And so there are opportunities also to introduce new fees or remove other fees or change the amount of the fees. In any case, to cut the story short, it will not be removed in the near future, this waiver. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Okay, so we have one about all type 1 and type 1A, type 1B variations being covered under the annual fee, whether that's correct, and then whether the annual fee will vary depending on how many of these are submitted.
No, the annual fee is a fixed amount stated in the fee regulation, will not changed.
So both type 1A and type 1B are included, but it doesn't matter how many
regardless of the number of your specific procedure, the annual fee will not change. If you submit 20 type 1A or 300 type 1A for your product, the annual fee will change.
Okay, perfect. Now,
I can take this one.
Prepayment, yeah.
Sorry. So the proof of prepayment to be part of the submission package, that is not possible because the payment will only be done after the request is being validated. That's the moment when you will receive the invoice. So it will have to be sent standalone. And normally this is a feature that is already automated in most of the financial departments. The moment when the payment is processed, or it is about to be processed, then a remittance advice is sent. The address via an email address, which is accounts receivable at EMA Europa EU. We will put that address in writing in the reply on how to do it. So additional guidance is there and will be in the slides as well.
Mm-hmm.
Then a third party, maybe I'll take this one, Valeria, as well. So as I said, we have the mechanism. Yes, the answer is yes, I would say. Yes, so the invoice will be issued always to the marketing authorization holder legal address. We can have a billing address. We can also have someone else pay the invoice, as long as the data of the invoice are quoted. Yeah. So the validation, we don't do it, the allocation on the basis of the sender of the payment. So it is important that we have the proper references, but the answer is yes. Yeah.
And that's for you as well, I think, Paola.
Yes, exactly. So this one is because I mentioned, probably apologies if I didn't make myself very clear. I mentioned this by looking at the scientific advice timetable and the submission deadlines for 2025. Procedures with submission date 2nd of December 2024 are for without preliminary preparatory meeting are up for a start of procedure 13th of January. So this is what the timetable, which is published on our website, illustrates. That means that submission 2nd of December, validation can be expected around the 6th of January, for a start of procedure, then 7 days after on the 13th of January. In this window, if the payment is received, then the procedure will start. Otherwise, it will be automatically put into the following start of procedure, which is 10th of February.
So we're saying the prepayment applies because the validation is.
Oh, yes, the prepayment applies because the validation is on the 6th of January.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so does the fee of 4,400 apply also to withdrawal of type 1 variations?
I can take this one. The short answer is no, because this withdrawal charge is not a fee, it's a charge, is applicable to the provision stated in the nuclear regulation in Annex 1 and Annex 2, and type 1A is not provided in such annexes as a fee, so therefore is not applicable.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And when will we publish a new explanatory note? So the answer, yeah.
So the explanatory note will be replaced as a document by an interactive section of question and answer in our document. Can be interactive, can be static in a PDF document. In any case, in the same manner as we have the pharmacovigilance fee question and answer area in our website. So we will not publish explanatory note anymore. We will not publish amounts. The amounts are clearly stated at face value in the nuclear regulation, and you need to refer to the nuclear regulation for the amounts. We will not complement with additional documents stating the same amounts. Again, we will merge all the questions related to non-pharmacovigilance and pharmacovigilance. Now we have two different areas on the website that will be all complemented in one area.
Yeah. So Claudia, I think this one may be for you as well. So whether we can clarify the implementation date for an initial application?
I mean, these are two different area of the transition. So if your letter of intent is sent in December, will not be subject to the new regulation because it is provided in 2024 and is part of the transitional measure of Article 17, whereby the fee due is not applicable in the case of the letter of intent in 2024. But of course, the implementation date is for plan in question in quarter 1 2025. If you change that date after the 1st of January 2025, you will be subject to a charge. So there is a mix, a transitional measure here. The letter of intent in 2024 will not be charged for the pre-submission fee, But if you change the date after the 1st of January, you will be charged for the change of date.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So this one, I think we'll go back to Paola.
Yes, I can take this one. Thank you. What is the reason for introducing prepayment for scientific advice? Are there any problems today? So the reason is because of the financial regulation, which has a specific provision applicable to fees and charges, whereby fees has to be services has to be provided only after the corresponding fee or charge has been paid in its entirety. So this is Article 71 of our fee regulation. So in exceptional cases, of course, can be done, but we are trying really to realign with this article. And secondly, because we have done an analysis on the collection trends, and for the scientific advice, we have seen that there are a number of collection issues or disputes issues that will be well resolved before the application is validated and processed. Therefore, the combination of these two things, the regulatory background and operational matters, took us really to select this service as the one candidate for the prepayment service. So
Good.
I hope this is clear. And
Thanks, Paola.
we will
so
reply in writing. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, so we will go to this last question, and then the others, just in the interest of time, we will tackle directly in Slido. So we will provide written answers via Slido to the ones that we don't get to by the end of the webinar. So for the last question, we will reject the request for certification if the fee has not been paid within the 30 days, meaning that a new submission will need to be done. So I think the answer is yes to that, right, Paola? That's
yes.
Correct. Okay, maybe since we have 2 minutes and that was a quick one, we can potentially go to this one. So that's for Claudia, and I think, you mentioned that.
So I mentioned during my presentation the withdrawal fee. The withdrawal fee before validation is applicable to orphan and pediatric application. So if the procedure for orphan drug and pediatric application is withdrawn after validation, then the waived fee will apply. So there will be no charge of a fee if the withdrawal fee is after validation.
Okay. Okay, we have 1 more minute. Maybe we can tackle this one, as it should be a quick one.
Yes, thanks, Valeria. Yes, I believe this question was also already asked, maybe a bit differently. So what that means, is it possible to have a prepayment account set up at EMA? I believe that the question is about having a deposit. So EMA keeping a deposit from where we would withdraw. We do not have provisions in our regulations, in our financial regulation, to allow us to allow the EMA to keep deposits of customers in our bank account. Yeah, and that's the reason why we are now exploring the direct debit, and obviously any potential different other alternative method of payment is always there to be explored. So I just wanted to say that we have noted this question, and thank you, of course, for asking it again, because as with everything, so we cannot exclude that maybe one day that would be possible. But at the moment, unfortunately, we do not have the legal basis to do so.